Hi class. Okay, so this is the third and final video. I knew this was going to be longer than most of our sections in this book. So this is the third video. This will be a slightly shorter video, but thank you for your patience. But there's just so much important stuff in this chapter that we need to discuss, and I can't leave it out. So anyway, back to the book. Next section of the book talks about the question of race or class. So when we talk about institutional racism, we talk about wealth disparities, some negative social and health consequences with regard to certain groups, particularly with whites and blacks. Some social scientists have started to say that class is now more of a determinant, and it's less. It's because of there's less overt racial discrimination, which is true. Lower class blacks start with less opportunities than middle or upper class blacks, right? However, it's important to understand that this kind of framework kind of ignores the prevalence of institutional racism in our country that restricts opportunity across the board, right? We have seen an increase in the black middle class since the 1960s, and this definitely correlates with advances in civil rights legislation. However, it also appears from our research that discrimination may even be higher for those who have higher levels of education, whether it be through criminal justice system, education, workplace, banks. There's institutionalized discrimination throughout our social institutions, right? Um, Another phenomenon we're starting to see is as more middle and working class black families move out of cities that have predominantly black populations, this leaves behind poorer blacks in the cities who are often more cut off from social support networks, leaders, role models, and institutions, and also access to wealth and property ownership, things like that. So there continues to be a racial divide between whites and blacks in our country, and this is seen most glaringly through economic disparities, right? However, many whites believe that racism is a thing of the past and no longer a determining factor in well being, which is not true. It's really important to understand that that's not true. We also are seeing lately, and in our political discourse and social discourse, definitely in the last decade, we have seen this phenomenon of some whites believing that they themselves are being treated unfairly because of things like such as affirmative action, and that they're being targeted unfairly with discriminatory practices because they are white, because the preferences have now shifted in favor of minorities. This is not true. I'm going to tell you that right now. But it's important to understand that's not true. The truth is that systemic racism persists against black people in all social institutions and everyday life. So next, the next part of the book is interesting. It talks about African and Afro-Caribbean immigrants to the United States, and two of the largest Afro-Caribbean groups that the book profiles are Haitians and Jamaicans. Haitians are different because they're linguistically different. They speak Haitian Creole, which is a variant of French. Some more educated Haitians speak French as well, like I don't want to say proper French, but like um, educated French, if you will. Haitian Creole, it's not that it's uneducated, is what happened when over time French it became a variant of the French language through African influences on language as well. Um, so Haitian Americans, it's important to understand some of the push factors has been extreme poverty in Haiti and other things such as the earthquake in 2010, and also we see many Haitians, predominantly living in Florida and also the Northeast. We have a large Haitian population in New Jersey, also in Louisiana because of the French influence there. It's interesting, many Haitians, some kind of adopt an overall black identity after being here for a while. Some like to retain their specifically Haitian identity through language and culture. Um, And that's the same thing with some Jamaican Americans too. Some try to identify themselves as Jamaican, more Jamaican than black. Others, don't. Um, Jamaican Americans speak English. Their English is noticeably different patois, and you can hear this in reggae music. If you are familiar with reggae music, you can kind of see how the language is different, right? For many Jamaican Americans, their assimilation in the United States dominant society has been much easier because of the English language. Um, and so they have integrated fairly well into mainstream U.S. society, even with discrimination, pervasive racial discrimination. Um, but they have fared better because of their command of the English language. Some two groups that other groups that are African Americans are very interesting. We're going to talk about one's from Cape Verde and one's from Nigeria. Nigerian Americans, there's a large population of Nigerian Americans in the United States. Their ability to and integrate into dominant society has been fairly easy because of the English language. Nigeria was a former English colony. We have a large Nigerian population in New Jersey, also in Texas and California, and other areas in the Northeast. Generally, Nigerians tend to be more highly educated, with about half in professional occupations such as medical doctors and other areas in healthcare. There's this really neat sitcom on TV now called Bob Hart Abishola. I think it's on NBC, and it's really neat. It profiles some Nigerian American families, and it's really great sitcom. But Nigeria has been the largest source of African immigration to the United States since 2000. About more than 166,000 have immigrated to the United States. The other group that which is really a beautiful culture, is the Cape Verdean culture. Cape Verdean Americans started to come to the United States in the 18th century. Cape Verde is a few islands off of the coast of West Africa. It was a former Portuguese colony. It was a former slave trading post in the Atlantic Ocean, right? But there was a considerable amount of Portuguese immigration to the Northeast, particularly in Massachusetts, through the whaling industry, and also many Cape Verdeans immigrated to the United States through this industry, the whaling industry, and then they started working in the textile mill industry in the Northeast. So when they came to the United States, many Cape Verdeans came to areas and where other Portuguese immigrants came, particularly in Massachusetts. Cape Verdeans, if you look at them, they're racially varied, very mixed. You can have very white Portuguese Cape Verdeans, and then very black African-looking Portuguese or Cape Verdeans, right? They vary in physical appearance, right? And interestingly for them, many of them identify themselves as more Portuguese than black or African. However, not often are they accepted by white Portuguese in New England as being Portuguese. They have a very distinctive Creole culture, food, language, and music, but they have added incredibly to the cultural landscape of the United States, not with regard to its impact throughout the United States, but with regard to areas in which you find other Portuguese-speaking peoples, such as in Massachusetts. There is a wonderful video that I'm going to try to find for you and put in our additional materials folder with regard to an episode. One chef, Marcus Samuelson, went to visit Cape Verdean communities in Massachusetts and talks a lot about their cuisine, their culture, their music, and everything like that. Very beautiful. So very interesting culture, and you'll see if you see some people who look racially black in Massachusetts, and you hear them talking a different language. That's not English. in Massachusetts. It's probably Cape Verdeans, right? Um, so anyway, so I think I'm going to leave it at this for our chapter. Now, as you move on to your response paper, I want you to think about some of the things we talked about when we talk about the response papers on reparations, right? Now, you're going to read an article by Ta-Nehisi Coates with regard to reparations. And I want you to read that article in conjunction with thinking about some of the things we learned in class for this chapter, as well as some things we've learned in other videos that may be helpful for your paper with regard to the question of whether reparations would be appropriate, acceptable, etc. So I want you to think about some of the things we have learned in class so far with regard to Black Americans in the United States. As you work on your response paper, that's the only assignment for this week. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, comments, or anything, please do not hesitate to contact me. I am here for you. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your attention. I hope everyone is faring well during this time. And I guess that's it. So please do not hesitate to contact me with any questions, problems whatsoever. I am here for you. Okay, even though I'm not there, I am here. So email me at any time with any questions, comments, or whatever. Thank you very much, and I will see you soon. Bye.